Thank you. Prior to us logging into this meeting here, the board met in closed executive session where our meeting was called to order. We did talk about something that didn't appear on our agenda in closed session, so I'm going to turn it over to our board attorney, Mark Toscano, so he can update that information for us.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Case. Just to note that in addition to the items noted on the agenda, the board also, that was on the agenda available prior to the meeting, the board also discussed matters in box number 4 concerning negotiations and concerning specifically health insurance information, as well as items in box number 7, which would be potential litigation over fall sports. So those were the 2 items.
Thank you, Mr. Toscano. I'll turn it over now to our superintendent, Dr. David Adderholt, for his opening comments.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the conclusion of day 11 with 169 days to go in the school year. Each day that we are in school is a gift, but each day is also a tremendous challenge and fight to stay open. So with that, I just want to thank a lot of folks who are working so diligently each day to ensure that the health and safety protocols that are put in place are being honored and are being enforced. And at the front line of all that's our school nurses, who have just done a remarkable job in ensuring that their colleagues and their students and their care are taken care of, and that we are screening, rescreening, temp checks, health screening tools, working with isolation rooms, meeting with students and staff throughout the day if symptoms present, working with families, explaining protocols. Also want to thank our health departments, both in Middlesex County, also in West Windsor. Jill Swanson's just been a rock for the district. She's the West Windsor Health Director. So just tremendous thanks to Jill. Had one too many calls over the weekend, just working through different issues with Jill, but just greatly appreciative for her guidance. All of our administrators, in particular our building administration, our principals and assistant principals, for the work that they're doing day in and day out to ensure our schools are safe. To our staff that's come on grounds, is working with students on site, and just all of our educators that are doing an incredible effort to adapt to, I don't want to say a new reality, it's our current reality in this time of pandemic. And to my letter I put out to the community on Friday, it's not without challenge, right? And so we do know that we have students and staff in quarantine, but that's not all bad. That means people are following the process. They're following the protocol. So I don't want quarantine to become a bad word. Quarantine means that people are respectfully acknowledging that they may have had an exposure, that they may have traveled out of state, they may have traveled out of country, that may have a workplace concern, they may have had a family member that was exposed. And as a result, there's some form of quarantine that's necessary. And quarantines will be necessary if we're going to try to maintain the safety and keep our schools open. So, the fact that individuals are reporting and honoring the process, to me, is a good sign. We do have some staff that have tested positive that I wrote about. There was only one that was specifically in a building with children. We did take actions at community last week and had community middle school closed for 3 days. Again, we reopened on Monday, and just a tremendous thanks to that staff, and in particular, first-year principal Kyle Schimpf, for the work that he and Peter James, the assistant principal, did to work with the staff through the concerns, but also the quick action that they took. Very pleased to say that other staff members that were in some form of quarantine have all at this point tested negative. So that's a blessing. But I will say that we are following all the quarantine rules. So with that, if you are a close contact of someone that's been exposed, a negative test doesn't bring you back to school. A negative test is a snapshot in time. And it means that the sample in the moment is tested negative. And as a result, the health department, the Department of Health, the CDC have suggested that it's a 14-day quarantine. We're following those guidelines. So staff members or students that are contact of someone that tests positive will ultimately end up in a quarantine. And again, quarantine is a safety precaution to try to ensure that we're not inadvertently spreading any potential concern. So it's going to be a daily component of our work as central office administrators and building administration to work through concerns that come forward. But it's the work that needs to be done right now to keep our schools open and to keep our schools and students and staff safe. There are going to be lots of challenges as we move forward in the school year. At the same time, tremendously proud of the work that our staff is doing. They are adapting to a multitude of learning models, teaching models, and doing it with grace. We ask our community to just keep hanging with us as we evolve into this, but I'm sure that you're seeing differences from the spring to now, and also you're also probably seeing some challenges as we're learning, and some staff have to work in two modalities where they're teaching students in front of them and virtually at the same time. So again, a tremendous lift, but we're one of the districts that are open K-12. There's only 2 in Mercer County that are at this point, and we're learning very valuable lessons in this time as we move forward that some of our other colleagues are only going to start to experience in the middle of October. So again, my thanks and appreciation to our staff. It's been great to have our students back on grounds, and we wish everyone a healthy new school year. So, Ms. Keish, do you want me to transition to the presentation? All right, so this evening, historically, as we move forward with the start of a new school year, we give an update on both our curriculum writing projects and test scores and test results from the prior year. Some of that obviously changed a little bit with some of the tests being canceled, but Dr. Nathan's going to come forward this evening and present for us a little bit about the curriculum updates as well as the testing presentation for this fall. Dr. Nathan, I'll share screen and bring that up for you.
Great. While you're doing that, good evening. It's my pleasure to share with you the curriculum updates and test data that we do have available. I want to start by thanking the team of supervisors and teachers for the curriculum work as they have skillfully collaborated to ensure that we have student-centered, standards-aligned curriculum. I'd also like to thank our teachers and all of our administrators for an outstanding opening and for keeping an open mind as we continue to learn, iterate, and grow in our hybrid and learning environments. We get better at it every day. And finally, a thank you to Dr. Adderhold and to the board for the support for this curriculum work that I'm able to present tonight. So thank you. So each slide in this presentation has a different content area and also bullets that denote each one of the courses and curriculum documents that was either built new or revised over the summer. So we start with our science documents, and you can see from chemistry to descriptive astronomy, AP Environmental Science, AP Chemistry, AP Biology, Genetics, and Advanced Topic Physics. And overall, these updates were based on the next-gen science standards. We're continually working to make our classes exploratory, hands-on, experiential. And also our technology advances that we're able to now capitalize on, especially in our hybrid and virtual environments. 2 courses were revised based on moving from a semester course to a full year. That's our astronomy and our genetics. And of course, our AP courses were revised to align with college boards. They changed standards just in 2019. So we revise our curriculum to make sure that we stay in that alignment. Our math documents, and again, you can see the bullets, each represents a curriculum document in a course from Math 8 all the way down to Algebra 1, H and A. And I'll just give you a brief description of what some of the revisions entailed. All of them being part of our middle school, Math 8 being part of our middle school math redesign, and also our Algebra and Math 7 courses. We updated the curriculum to incorporate the sequence and pacing that match our resources, in particular, one of our new texts. We resequenced units to better flow from 7th to 8th grade. For example, 7th grade typically teaches geometry at the end of the year, so we wanted to start Math 8 building on that learning. Pre-calculus honors was revised after implementation last year That's pretty typical. We build our curriculum, and then once we're able to teach it for a full year, there are iterations that we want to make that typically happen that second year. Calculus honors, we've also been able to incorporate a new textbook and new resources. And we also want to continue to align with our AP Calculus AB. So those revisions helped us to do those things. Algebra 1 and Algebra 1 honors. This is again part of that 8th grade math redesign. We incorporated new updated texts that are aligned to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. That's part of our 5-year cycle. We always want to make sure the resources that we're using are up to date. Algebra 2 H&A, we had actually an increase in the number of students who are taking Algebra 2 honors and advanced. Therefore, the text that had previously been used is no longer in print or edition. So we were able to vet and purchase new resources for that. And when we do that, we align our curriculum so that the resources and our documents are all in sync. And Algebra 1 H&A, again, this is the second year of our redesign project. This was generally standards which were tweaked with the objectives to meet our students' learning goals. And finally, Math 7 and Math 7 honors, we changed the sequence of the course, again, to align with our resources. So this is not a curriculum change, but what we were able to do, and this was a snippet from a newsletter that was sent out to our middle school families. We were able to create a slight structural change in order to service our students much more fluidly. So we, in some, were able to take Math 7 honors and our CP course, Algebra 1 and Algebra 1 honors, and enroll students in a combined class. This increases access to both acceleration and also to supports as needed for certain topics for students. The math workshop model allows us to provide this instructional approach, which really allows for this level of differentiation and support for our students, both in accelerating and in supporting as needed. Also, as students change levels, they no longer have to change their schedule or their course since the classes are combined. They're able to receive the acceleration or the scaffolding that they need right within their scheduled course already. So for our literacy documents, we have quite a few revisions. You can see high school, our first set of bullets, and our middle school documents are right below that. Integrated reading language arts and language arts CP and honors courses. The curriculum work had 3 main objectives for our literacy documents. One is diversity. We added more diverse works as well as literary lenses that will enable our students to think through multiple perspectives. We also focused on big ideas and enduring understandings, kind of that less is more approach in order to have our students dig deeper into topics. And the third factor for our revisions was our digital needs. We wanted to make sure that in light of our virtual world, that teachers were able to add resources as appropriately, shorter works, more choices, and lots of digital options. As far as all of these documents, we used diverse texts in order to support the writing of the documents. Some resources that guided the thinking were Becoming Anti-Racist English Teachers, Ways to Actively Move Forward, Why Empathy is Key to Dismantling White Racism, Disrupt Text, and the Critical Analysis of a Curriculum. So we also had literacy documents for our English language learners in middle school. Each one of these bullets represents a curriculum document that supports our 3 levels of English language learners. Those 3 levels are beginning, intermediate, and advanced, and each one of these documents is written in a way that supports students in transitioning to those levels of achievement. There's two parts that we focus on when working within our ESL documents. One is reading and literature, so kind of the language arts portion. And the second one is our language skills portion, which is really language and word study. So these documents are able to combine both of those focus areas for a seamless curriculum for our English language learners. We have special education focused documents, and these particularly focused on our literacy and social studies offerings for our MD and autism students or settings. Our essential literacy course covers topics such as basic conversational tools, grammar, reading and writing, why we read, the importance of reading, comprehension, and how to engage in a conversation based on what you've read. All the coursework is based on the premise of preparing students for life outside of high school to support the world of work and conversations among colleagues and peers. The integrated reading language arts. This course covers communication in both written and oral formats, digital tools for communication, reading, writing to help navigate environments and become involved citizens, and coursework that embeds life skills. And finally, the social studies course focuses on navigating the community, family and heritage, government and citizenship, global issues, geography and map skills, and economics, budgets such as supply and demand. College boards, our social studies course that was updated this summer was based on College Board revisions to the AP European exam and course. So we therefore revise our documents as well. The units of study, unit summary, essential questions, enduring understandings, and learning outcomes are taken directly from the College Board course descriptions. It is important to note, however, that we added essential questions and evidence of learning exemplars to reflect our commitment to anti-racist and anti-biased instruction. Fine and performing arts. Here we had two documents, courses with documents that we revised. Computer Art and Design 2 is a brand new course which needed a curriculum for the first time, and we revised Computer Art 1 as an opportunity after running it for the second year. We had, after Computer 1 has been running for a while, this was our opportunity to revisit it because we were building Computer 2 for the first time. We always look to align to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards for visual and performing arts when we do these updates. And we were able to incorporate new essential questions and enduring understandings, as well as the CASEL competencies, which is our SEL focus. Career and our tech courses. You can see from robotics to digital communications to information literacy and technology in grades 3 through 5 to our career readiness were targets this summer. Our robotics and engineering is the new course designed to offer students a robotics experience that is similar to the first team challenge. Digital communications is in its second year, so we typically revise and rewrite based on lessons that we've learned from implementation in first year. Our information literacy and technology in grades 3 through 5 were updates to the curriculum for best practices and current levels of technology and understandings of students. In addition to that, we added engineering practices and design thinking experiences to those courses. And career readiness is a course designed for our MD and autism population. This course is designed to prepare our students, again, for the world of work. It covers everything from learning about various jobs and what skills are required to do them, writing resumes and completing job applications or interviews, to hands-on tasks for what students would experience in the real world. And finally, our dual language immersion program had some curriculum to write and also some curriculum to tweak. In this case, our kindergarten students, based on our hybrid and virtual environments, do receive an English component in kindergarten. This is the first year that we have incorporated this portion. So we did use the opportunity to write curriculum that would incorporate some phonics, word study, reading, and writing, but it is all kept in mind for the adaptation of the unique structure of the target language and the unique needs of the dual immersion learners. In second grade, for Chinese culture and literacy, and for Spanish culture and literacy, in second grade, our students take a foreign language for the first time if they're not in the dual language immersion program. Because our students would have been in the language for 3 years by the time they reached second grade, we didn't feel that would be appropriate to introduce either another language or to have an entry-level language since they would be far more advanced. So we were able to write curriculum that would serve this particular need in our second grade classes. And it is a target on the language that our students are already studying with a deeper dive into culture and literacy. So that concludes our curriculum revision and creation update. And it does lead us into the second portion of this presentation, which is the testing report and from the data that was accessible. So access testing, access for ELLs, English language learners, is a collective name for WIDA's suite of summative English language proficiency assessments. Access is taken annually by our English language learners in kindergarten through 12th grade. And our aim is for 4.5, which is proficient level. So what you can see on this screen is first an explanation because this test can only be taken in person. So the state knows that our ELLs did not finish their access testing, nor did any districts ELLs complete the testing from last year. But they do allow us to take a snapshot of the data that we were able to glean before our extended closure. So based on that, our summary results are as follows. The number of test takers, we had 173 students. The count of completed tests, we have 155 that were able to be completed. And the count of students who achieved a 4.5 or better is 40 students. So until they reach that level, they continue in the ESL program and remain in services as they progress with their English language proficiency. Okay, and this leads to the last set of data that we have for results, and that's our AP testing report for 2019-20. Just go one more. Thank you. So AP is administered in high school, typically to juniors and seniors. This was the first time that it was administered online. And we do get national comparative data because, again, AP is delivered across the nation. So just to give you a sense of the number of tests in West Windsor-Plainsboro, so the total AP tests between both of our high schools is 2,973, and you can see that breakdown between High School North and High School South below. Here is kind of a longitudinal display that shows from 2013-14 all the way to 2019-20, our enrollment in AP tests, the total tests administered. So we've stayed pretty on par with our trajectory for students who are choosing to take the tests. We have an extraordinary amount of AP tests in district, and 2019-20 was no different. So here are our results by school. So this gives you a breakdown, and you can see across the rows for high school north and south, the number of students achieving a 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then also what percentage of students are in each one of those categories. I always find it remarkable how close our high schools are in their percentages. We're right on par with each other. And you can see an outstanding number of 3s, 4s, and 5s. So in sum, we had 83% of 11th and 12th grader students took at least one AP course in the 2019-20 school year, and 91% of 11th and 12th grade students scored a 3 or above on at least one AP test in the 1920 school year. So amazing results. Our teachers, our curriculum work, our teachers in their implementation, and our students are doing an amazing job with their studies, and this certainly shows that. So thank you for, again, the opportunity to build curriculum, share out our test results, and really support all of our teams of teachers across the district.
Thank you, Dr. Nathan. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Nathan at this time? Great, thank you. That brings us to the first opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who have submitted written comments on the form that was open and available on the district website up until the start of this first opportunity for public comment. All submissions containing all required fields completed will be viewed during the meeting and included as public comment in the official minutes. Each comment should be directed to the presiding officer, not individual members of the board, and will be read by the board attorney for 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. If the comment extends beyond those 3 minutes, the full comment will be submitted and available as part of the meeting's public record. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes. So I will thank Dr. Adderholt for sharing his screen and Mr. Toscano for reading the comments.
Okay. All right. Apologize. All right. Let me just refresh. Okay, so our first public comment tonight is from Ramon Garcia, 9 Norfolk Drive, Princeton Junction. Dr. Adderhold, the board, staff, students, and the West Windsor community. As an instructional assistant at High School South, I've experienced the trying times with regard to virtual teaching and learning. Along with that, I'm an avid watcher of the news. I am sure, as I am sure you all do, the COVID, as I'm sure you all do, the COVID numbers rise as we attempt to return to some kind of new reality. We are all learning how to live with this virus. Mask, gloves, social distancing, limited social engagements. I hope that a vaccine will be developed and proven to be effective in the battle against COVID-19. We seek to protect ourselves, our families, and our community. The decision to not participate in sports this fall was the right one. The well-being of our students, your sons and daughters, was paramount in the decision-making. I would rank that deliberation and decision as among the top 2 important decisions that were made, the other being decision to open our schools under a hybrid model. Education is being conducted. All of our staff, administration, teachers, support, custodial, are laser focused on teaching and protecting our students, your sons and daughters. Ramon Garcia, resident of West Windsor and instructional assistant, High School South. The next comment comes from Christina Hodges, 18 Zatzer Farm, Princeton Junction. Thank you for opening the schools for those students who wanted to be in school. Let's make that a little bigger, I'm sorry. With all of Dr. Adderholt's tweets at Governor Murphy, I wasn't sure our district was going to be able to open. My freshman at High School South chose hybrid because the virtual spring experience was lacking for many reasons. He knew hybrid would mean masks all the time, 6 feet distancing, less students in the class, and missing teachers, yet he wanted to go to school. What he didn't expect was to be in a classroom with both him and his teachers sitting at desks logged onto Zoom. I emailed Dr. Nathan and spoke with her yesterday regarding some of my concerns. I was happy to hear that the district is listening to parents and teacher feedback, and I hope that the district uses that feedback to improve the hybrid students' educational experience. I understand over the summer, a lot of time was spent on professional development for the virtual experience. However, what about the virtual students? Are there plans for professional development for the hybrid experience? Why aren't there cameras in the classroom? Like, sorry. Oh, there it came. You can see it now. Like an owl camera so that the teacher can teach like they have in the past. Isn't there any engagement with the students in the actual classroom? Why are the textbooks, which the district has not been handing out to students that want in all classes? The online textbooks are just increase screen time. And I certainly don't want my son on the screen more than he already is. When Governor Murphy shut down the school, he had benchmarks the state had to hit in order to open up again, which was happening for a few months now. What are the requirements that will determine when students can be full-time in person if they choose to? We know what parameters are to shut down, but is there a plan in place for our district to move forward? And if so, what is it? In addition, he allowed sports to resume in early July. However, WWP decided not to participate in fall sports. What are the guidelines WWP has in place for sports to resume? Thank you. Okay, the next appear to be a series of comments from the same individual, and we'll read them as one. Brandy Herbert, 8 Wood Hollow Road, Princeton Junction. Princeton ISD recently invested in distributed learning platform Canvas for their students. Given the limitations of Google Classroom's functionality, is the WWP school district investing in a DL platform like Canvas or Moodle Room that offers a more comprehensive platform to support teachers and student learning? If so, what is the platform and timeline for rollout for the district? And if not, why not? It has become apparent that not all teachers have received the necessary technological resources to utilize Zoom synchronously in the classroom, i.e. they still need to connect their laptops to a larger screen, and they need a secondary camera to point at themselves and the in-class students so that the virtual students can see and hear the teachers alongside their classmates. Are these additional tools being procured for all the classrooms? And if so, what is the timeline for the rollout in the classrooms? If not, why not? It appears that the academic calendar for 2020-2021 was revised to adapt to the new virtual hybrid format. What will be the schedule for virtual and hybrid half days for the upcoming teacher conferences? What will be the schedule for snow days, given that teachers and students have access to the virtual platform? Given that parents are not allowed access into the schools during the hybrid school day due to reasons pertaining to COVID-19, what are the protocols in the event of an emergency? How does COVID shift internal responses in the new hybrid model in the event of an emergency? Okay. The next comment is from Kasif Anwar, 52 Woodland Drive, Plainsboro. Thank you for this thorough review of curriculum updates. A few questions. For science, how will climate change be incorporated into all the science topics? 2, for math, are there updates, enhancements of statistics, financial literacy to prepare our children for real life practical math? 3, for literacy, in what ways have diversity increased? Is it simply racial diversity or also gender and religious diversity? Do we have numbers on how much more? 4, does AP European history discuss the history of colonialism in a holistic and more honest manner than including the Atlantic slave trade? 5, what would it take to expand dual language immersion to all the lower entry schools in WWP? Thank you for all your work. Nice to see a different background, Dr. Adderhold.
And Mr. Toscano, there was one comment above from Kristen Rader that you skipped.
I apologize. Thank you. Kristen Rader, 7 Baylor Place, West Windsor. I already raised all these issues at the building level. I've yet to get any answers. Besides the teacher, who should we notify when your child cannot log into a Zoom meeting? 2, if your child cannot get into the Zoom meeting for no fault of their own, is that an unexcused absence? 3, is the district tracking the hours of instruction lost because students cannot connect to a Zoom class? If so, what do they consider an acceptable and unacceptable amount of time lost? 1 week, my son lost 50% of math instructional time because he could not connect in the Zoom meeting. 4, how has the science curriculum been adjusted to accommodate for the virtual model? 5, what virtual science resources are now available for students? Okay, next one is Eileen Azara, 22 Laurie Lane, Princeton Junction. The 2019-2020 school year was outside the norm, and the learning environment suffered well beyond the standard summer loss. How has the curriculum been altered to address what was missed? Additionally, has any formalized assessment been created to better pinpoint students that are struggling in a virtual environment? The next comment is from Veronica Mino, an email address, Princeton Junction. I would like to thank Mr. Leppold and Dr. Royster very much for their help and support in implementing a HOSA chapter in South. Today, we were officially registered, and the students and I are very grateful and happy. Next comment is from Latoya Edwards, 249 Robbinsville, Edinburgh, West Windsor. It says Latoya Edwards, President, African American Parent Support Group. I'm glad to hear that WWP is looking at learning through a different lens, and I'm happy to hear the district is choosing more diverse and anti-racist text. I've often spoken with African American parents and students who feel the literary choices were biased and in some cases racist. I look forward to working with the district to make positive curriculum changes while still continuing to teach our kids the literary canon.
That is the last comment.
Yes.
So that will close our first opportunity for public comment. Dr. Adderall, do you have any comments to make at this time?
Just in general, there's a couple comments regarding calendar and snow day. I was on the phone with a Zoom call with the Commissioner of Education yesterday, asked the exact question regarding two points. One that came up actually at the last meeting, I believe it was Ms. Mino that raised it regarding Election Day. And the Executive Order 175 talks about schools needing to be closed on Election Day. It did not clarify whether we can continue virtually, so that was something we still need in writing. But we believe we have the permission, based on the conversation with the Commissioner, to flip the Election Day to a virtual day. This includes school districts that are not used as polling areas. The governor's executive order requires all schools across the state to be closed on that day in case the Board of Election needs a backup location, even if it's a last minute change. So we are all ordered closed physically, but virtually we are allowed to be open. We are waiting for that in writing. We also asked about snow days because it would seem to make sense that we'd have the right to stay open if we could flip to a virtual model. Now, I'm torn a little bit on that because I think every student has the right to wake up to the joys of a closure of snow. But at the same time, it would make sense that if we can do this virtually, we could theoretically stay open if we were to move, if we had a multi-day storm, the power was up, or emergency days are used for other reasons, such as loss of power, hurricanes, whatnot. So we don't have any guidance on that at this point. We're awaiting it. It's a fair question. And actually, visitors was also raised as a question. And I will simply say, like, with that, we've talked about that just today with administrators and the principals yesterday. And we talked about the importance of honoring the no visitors policy unless there are emergent circumstances. And obviously in such, there may be a need for a parent to enter a facility, especially if you have a child in some kind of medical crisis. So the idea of no visitors is like no daily entrance into the building, no PTA, PTSA meetings in the buildings, no evening activities in the buildings, but there may be a scenario in which a student parent needs to enter the facility for the benefit of their child with respect to a medical concern in particular. So we are mindful the policy doesn't exclude that from happening, but it will be in emergent circumstances. And there was a lot of curriculum related question. Dr. Nathan, I don't know if you wanted to speak to any of it, but I would just simply say that the technology is evolving, the utilization of the technology is evolving. What we have received is also evolving because there are supply chain issues, and there are some things that we are in the midst of either wanting to pilot or piloting that we're still waiting on technology purchased back in the spring. And so we do know that that the experiences in the classroom in the virtual world are going to continue to evolve, but And we do know that our teachers are going to continue to gain experience and expertise as they move forward. It's hard to remember that the spring wasn't a normal time period for any of us. And so I don't, we really were dipping our toes in what virtual learning could look like. And now the expectations, the training, the evolution of technology that we have access to, the digital platforms have all increased. But our staff came back on the 2nd of September and have received a tremendous amount of professional development upon return, and 600 or so teachers attended training in August with Dr. Nathan and her team. But not everyone was able to attend that. So there are new resources that are available for parents online. There are new resources constantly evolving for teachers. Some of our teacher coaches all of our teacher coaches are doing remarkable work with helping their colleagues and supporting our supervisors. Dr. Nathan, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to just.
Yeah, no, well said. And I'm happy I get to speak to parents and I get great feedback. And I bring that feedback back to our teams. Our teams of teachers are amazing. Their ingenuity as they're realizing different techniques that can help with hybrid and virtual students, especially at the same time. So we capture those strategies and then we share them out. So that we can empower all of our teachers. And we're getting better and better at that every day. As far as the curriculum questions, there were some very specific ones. One of the nice things about our documents is they are all posted on our website. So you can do as deep a dive as you'd like and read our documents. And I'm always happy to talk to anybody. So if you wanted to give my office a call or shoot me an email, I can give you a call that works. I'd be happy to go into more depth with you on the topics that you mentioned as far as environmental science, technology, any of those pieces. I can absolutely do a deeper dive with you.
And Dr. Nathan, I just would also say that curriculum gets reviewed on a cycle. And the only thing that sort of knocks it off that cycle is when the state puts out new standards and then puts timelines to adhere to those standards. So sometimes the cycle has to be changed as a result. So there may be curriculums that there's interest in and wanting to know more about that weren't discussed tonight or weren't updated over the summer. And that's because they weren't on this summer cycle. And so there are some curriculums that we're going to maybe expedite some of the reviews on. And as we go through this year, we know that the department is still proceeding with some updates. They've decided to move forward in certain areas, so we will have to respond accordingly. So Dr. Nathan, thank you for that. And Ms. Case, back to you.
Thank you. Now it's time to hear our committee reports. We'll begin with the Administration and Facilities report, and for that I will turn it over to Tony Flares.
Thank you. The Administration and Facility Committees met on September 15th. We began with a review of the restart and reopening of schools. Dr. Adderhold and Mr. Earl provided an overview of the implementation of health and safety protocols, transportation, curriculum and instruction using digital content, the entry and exit of buildings, which included temperature checks and health screening process. Mr. Earl provided the committee with a brief update on concerns related to technology and access for students and staff. And all the concerns are being addressed and the systems are operating more efficiently now. We discussed the special education review. Our consultant, PCG, met with Dr. Adderhold, Mr. Earl, and Karen Slagle, the Director of Special Services, to discuss the next steps in the review process. PCG provided recommendations on how to use virtual tools to safely begin the in-person component of the review process. Areas of discussion included in-person file review, in-person classroom walkthroughs, which would be virtual, virtual staff interviews, and virtual student focus groups. The district and PCG agreed to adjust the timeline for delivery due to the limited access of the in-person components of the reviews. Then we discussed the referendum projects. Last week, the electricians were installing the new HVAC duct smoke detectors and addressing remaining troubleshooting of the new devices. OSI predicted that they'll be ready to finish the system startup and have the township's inspections by this week. Security vestibule renovations are underway, and the exterior doors will be replaced and card readers will be moved. Toilet rooms at Dutch Neck are substantially complete and approved for use. Grover construction is moving along well and is on target for completion at the scheduled time. Contractors at Community have mobilized and construction's underway. The contractor is digging and pouring footings and laying foundation block. The front parking lot at South is complete, including the basin, and is awaiting on-site lighting. Phase 2 at South is awaiting a mobilization date. Finally, we discussed the equity update process. The new diversity, equity, and inclusivity coordinator began last week. The next meeting with the African American Parent Support Team is scheduled for September 29th to continue their ongoing equity work. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 13th. Any questions?
Thank you, Tony. Now it's time for the Curriculum Committee's report, and for that I will turn it over to Dana Krug.
Sorry, I was muted. Hello, good evening. The Curriculum Committee met on Monday, September 14th. First, we discussed the summer financial literacy course, which was offered by the district virtually over this past summer. And we had Dr. Nathan share that we had 208 students participate in this course. We next reviewed the curriculum and testing presentation, which Dr. Nathan will present at the next board meeting. Actually, that's today, and you already saw it. The Curriculum Committee recommends the approval of several new and/or revised curricula. These are in advanced topics in physics, essential literacy, Algebra 2 H&A, Algebra 1 honors, Math 7 honors. The committee recommends approval of the professional development contracts and sessions for staff and administrators as follows. There's going to be a contract with Flemington Raritan Regional School District to provide reading recovery, professional development, and technical support for 9 reading recovery teachers at a cost of $8,100. A reading and writing project network training through Columbia at a cost of $120,000, and this the 2020-21 contract covers consultant days, which will be paid through the 2021 Every Student Succeeds Act Title II grant funds, and also to recommend approval for 2 virtual Fishbird training workshops for district staff at a cost not to exceed $4,000. To recommend approval of the Colby Index A assessment for all participants at a cost not to exceed $1,500. And lastly, the committee recommends approval of district-wide licensing of the this, I guess it said Cognate, is that right, Pam? Online assessment from September 2020 through June 2021 at a cost not to exceed $21,630. This will replace the InView for cognitive testing for 2nd and 5th grade. Cognate can be used remotely and is digital assessment similar to InView. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, October 13th. Thanks.
Thanks. Does anybody have any questions for the Curriculum Committee? All right. It's now time for the Finance Committee's report, and for that I will turn it over to Louisa Ho.
Great. The Finance Committee met on September 15th. We started with a review of school reopening. Staff reviewed how school reopening went. Staff reported that opening day went well. There were some glitches with the thermal cameras in some schools on day 1, so handheld thermometers were used when there were issues. In most buildings, they worked fine. By day 2, most of the kinks were worked out and morning entry into the school ran smoothly. Transportation went well with all students arriving to school and returning home safely. There was an incident where a bus tapped a pole while making a turn, but no one was hurt. The Wi-Fi has been moving more slowly this year than in the past. One reason is that while cleaning this summer, ABM unplugged phones in each room. Each phone has its own IP address and port, so phones that were plugged into a different port when replaced slowed the network as it searched for each phone. The second reason was due to the upgrading of access points in certain schools, which, due to the pandemic and the need to hand out devices, was not completed. The mix of old and new equipment is causing the network to run slower. The third issue is the fact that video hogs bandwidth, so we needed to install a limiter on the ability of any one unit to hog this space. The system is now running well. We are dealing with callouts of staff members and have a few staff members that are quarantined. We have had some students sent home from quarantine, and some students are quarantined because they returned from travel. The committee discussed different scenarios regarding concern over possible staffing shortages. We are nearing 70% of students learning virtually, which is making it easier to manage staffing concerns. The district has ordered 500 Rabbit air purifiers that contain 5 filters for classrooms that are being used. One filter is a HEPA filter, one is a carbon filter, one is a particulate filter, and another is a germ filter. These are small standalone units. Reviewing agenda items, the monthly financial reports were reviewed. The district will use the New Jersey Schools Insurance Group grant of $19,474.65, which is on the agenda, to replace our AED devices and supplies that have reached the end of their useful life. There is also a motion for furniture for the community middle school expansion through NJ cooperative bids. There are motions to reduce transportation contracts due to the pandemic where students attended school remotely. There are also approvals for a few contracts that were needed for students that did attend in-person programs. Staff reported that work on the 2019-20 audit continues. For construction updates, please keep in mind that these updates are as of September 14th. We started by talking about summer projects. Work is beginning on the salt storage sheds at Village and High School North. Roofing work continues at High School North. The bus storage area at North is complete. We are looking to add concrete wheel stops so the buses do not hit the fences they are parking. The new HVAC unit in the OTPT room at Hawk is operational and work completed. I'm not going to go over the referendum work because Tony covered most of that. I would just add one thing that we talked about. The expansion of community middle school is moving rapidly with footings poured and foundation block being laid. The site work contractor is beginning his work as well. There have been questions from the public regarding the trees in the front and side of community middle school. The administration has discussed this grove of trees with the contractors at every opportunity. An arborist was called in to review the trees on the site and discuss how work can proceed to cause as little damage as possible to this grove. Unfortunately, the arborist uncovered that many of these trees are unhealthy. For the Energy Savings Improvement Program, HVAC work continues at High School South. HVAC work at Dutch Neck is complete. Work will shift to community middle school for boiler replacement and HVAC work. Solar installation continues at Village and Dutch Neck. The installation is mostly complete at Millstone, and we are waiting on final connectivity. Overall, ABM is doing a good job of providing custodial services and has been able to staff the district as required. For the cafeteria, staff reported that the first weekly food distribution took place Monday night. The boxes contained prepackaged breakfasts and lunches for 5 days. For transportation, on the agenda are many corrections to contracts that did not run during the summer. There's one contract to pay a parent to transport their child to a private placement, and a few contracts for students attending out of district. In other business, the committee asked for some additional information on an item on the curriculum committee agenda. Staff explained some academic changes for the year regarding Math 7 and Algebra 1 in the middle schools. For these courses, honors and college prep classes were combined to open up the acceleration opportunity to more students. Historically, the movement of students between programs has created scheduling problems, which has limited student access. This will allow for individualized progress by each student and will help with logistics and equity of the scheduling. The changes reduce the structural limitations of the schedule and provide more access. The New Jersey Student Learning Standards texts and teachers for these classes are the same. The students enrolled in the honors course will be assessed differently, will be required to solve more complex conceptual problems, and will be asked more often to apply their knowledge to new and different situations. These changes do not affect the A&E math students or program. The committee will meet next on Tuesday, October 13th.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the Finance Committee? All right, we'll now move forward to the voting portion of our agenda. We will begin with administration items. Can I please get a motion on items 1 to 6? Robin and Tony. Are there any questions or comments about the administration items? Thank you, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. McCune.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Keish.
Yes.
Okay. Carries.
Could I please get a motion on the curriculum and instruction items 1 to 6? Graylin and Dana. Are there any questions or comments on the curriculum items? Thank you, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Flores.
Yes.
And next was Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. McCune.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Keish.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I please get a motion on the finance items 1 to 42? Isaac and Louisa. Are there any questions on the finance items? Thank you, Chris.
We'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. McCune.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Keish.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I please get a motion on personnel items 1 and 2 plus the addendum? Martin and Rachel. Are there any questions or comments about the personnel items?
I have just a
Dana?
question. I was just curious about on the addendum for the personnel. I see there's a number of stipends for some of our high school programs that I was just curious how they were. Some of them are obvious how they'll be done virtually, but some look a little more challenging. So I was just interested in how that was going to be handled.
It's a fair question. The true answer. For the public, this was, I believe, posted to the website, but it was posted this evening. These are the club and activity stipends for high schools. These are back of the book items in the WWPEA contract. Clubs like class advisors, debate, whatnot, might be easier to conceptualize. I'm going to make an assumption that things like fall drama, a cappella club, whatnot, might be some of the harder ones to think about how that might actually go about. And I can tell you it's not going to be easy, but what I do know is it's going to take time, effort, planning on the advisors' parts, and working with the students in the virtual experience. I have 5 kids, as many of you know, and I have 2 at home right now in their a cappella group in their school. And a cappella and groups like that can absolutely run in a virtual format. It does a lot of being together with you. It's a lot about the socialization. It's a lot about hearing the technique. A lot of times it's muting, singing along with one another, potentially not with all mics open, pre-recording, blending and mixing. There's ways to do it. It's not anything like it would be if they were in person. But for the students that are in those kind of organizations, it's deeply meaningful to them. Just like we believed with sports, it's very important to allow for virtual experiences to continue with the athletes. Fall drama, obviously the way in which you read lines and the way in which you do set design, some of that's going to look very different potentially. But again, we need to be able to have the advisor in place for the students and the advisor to work together, try to work through that and what it's going to look like. We don't know what's going to happen with things like the musicals. We don't know what's going to happen with the November 2nd cure that's coming. We don't know what's happening with the state of vaccines. But we do believe that our music professionals, our teachers, our advisors will work with the students to try to figure out how to do something. And we want to try to give that experience and opportunity for the students and staff. So, but there's a lot of lead time and work in some of those groups. The picking of the play doesn't just happen in the spring, right? The securing rights and materials and trying to figure this out doesn't just happen in March. So we believe we need to move that forward at this time if we're going to give the students and staff a chance to to pull anything off for the second half of the year. And we're making an assumption that some of this will have to be thought of conceptually virtual, and we're going to have to be able to pivot to in person. Spring musical starts, quite honestly, in November with tryouts. So that kind of work is not, spring doesn't happen in spring. It happens with the posting and the tryouts that happens before Thanksgiving usually.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. McCune,
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield,
Yes.
Ms. Zovich,
Yes.
Mr. Cheng,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Ho,
Yes.
Ms. Juliana,
Yes.
Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay.
Before we move on, as part of our personnel items, we just voted on 3 retirements that I would like to acknowledge. First, Keith Ponitor, an instructional assistant at High School North, is retiring after 13 and a half years in the district. Mary Wilson, an instructional assistant at Grover Middle School, is retiring after 12 and a half years in the district. And Susie Zhao, an ESL teacher, is retiring after 26 and a half years with the district. I want to wish them all the best in their retirement, thank them for everything that they've done for our WWP community, and stay safe and healthy. Could I please get a motion to approve the minutes, both the meeting minutes and the closed executive session minutes from our meeting on September 1st? Tony and Louisa. Are there any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed or abstention? Do we have any liaison reports? Is there any new business? That brings us to the second opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of the community who have submitted written comments on the form that was open and available on the district website up until the start of this second opportunity for public comment. All submissions containing all required fields completed will be viewed during the meeting and included as public comment in the official minutes. Each comment should be directed to the presiding officer, not individual members of the board, and will be read by the board attorney for 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. If the comment extends beyond those 3 minutes, the full comment will be submitted and available as part of the meeting's public record. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. So I will thank Dr. Adderhold for sharing his screen and Mr. Toscano for reading the comments.
Okay, it appears we have one comment from Makran Bidwadi, mailing address 213 Carnegie Center, City, Princeton. The comment, according to Governor Murphy's Executive Order 175 of 2020, August 13, page 12 of 15, item 10A, a school day, whether in person or remote, must consist of at least 4 hours of active instruction to students by an appropriately certified teacher, except that one continuous session of 2.5 hours may be considered a full day in kindergarten, pursuant to NJAC 6A:32-8.3. For the health of pupils, this must at once be treated as at most 4 hours or 240 minutes total, with at least 10 minutes break in between. A middle school sample schedule of 40-minute periods modules equals 0740 to 0820 virtual arrival, 0830 to 0910 period 2, period 3 0920 to 10 o'clock, 1010 to 1050 period 4, period 5 11 o'clock to 1140, period 6 1150 to 1230 virtual dismissal. This is 240 minutes that satisfies the state minutes. Please spare the cruelty of staring at the screen for no more than 4 hours while you adhere to the executive order versus the whopping 330 minutes or 6.5 hours. Is this crossing someone's mind? An elementary sample schedule of 40 minutes periods modules equals 0840 to 0920 virtual arrival. Period 2, 0930 to 1010. Period 3, 1020 to 11 o'clock. Period 4, 1110 to 1150. Period 5, 12 o'clock to 1240. Period 6, 1250 to 1330 virtual dismissal, and noting these are all in military time. This is 200 This 240 minutes satisfies state mandates. Please spare the cruelty of staring at the screen for no more than 4 hours while you adhere to the executive order with uniform length versus form, 36 to 40-minute period, modules presently, and 298 minutes or nearly 5 hours. These are younger kids, and enough is enough. At 4 hours, no more, please. It is very evident that the full resources are applied to in-person and the virtual is relegated to an inferior status, but filled with endless minutes as if it mimics the in-person, but sans its resources. I'd request that props and kits to perform math and science and other subjects be packed up for monthly pickup by parents. The online schools are there for over a decade. Now do this with boxes of materials for duration. Can we learn from them? Unfortunately, if Dr. Fauci, NIH, NIAID directors be believed, as all believe in science do, then 2021-22 school year will be online, as well as vaccine does not jumpstart the American economy or education. It needs time to permeate to create an artificial herd immunity, as the natural herd immunity happens in the background. So please, do not treat the virtual population as an afterthought and disposable, or make them believe by adding hours to match and mimic the in-person versus adding resources much deserved by the virtual. That is, decrease the hours to no more than 4 per school day and add resource packets for parental pickup. Many districts already have a virtual academy. Why the WWP has no vision. I believe that's it, Madam President.
That will close our second opportunity for public comment. The board needs to return to closed executive session at this time, so I'm going to read the resolution that we need to approve. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act authorizes boards of education to meet in executive session under certain circumstances, and whereas the Open Public Meetings Act requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public meeting to go into private session, now therefore be it resolved by the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District Board of Education that it is necessary to meet in executive session to discuss certain items involving personnel matters. Be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public as soon as feasible. The minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Be it further resolved that the board will not return to open session to conduct business at the conclusion of the executive session. So can I please get a motion to go into closed executive session? Dana and Isaac, all those in favor say aye.
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 We'll take a couple minutes break and we'll meet up again at the other Zoom link. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Thank everybody who made public comment. I want to also thank, as Dave said at the beginning of the meeting, all the people who have worked tirelessly on behalf of this community to get us to day 10 or 11 or wherever we are. We really cannot thank you enough for all your hard work. And with that, we'll move into closed session. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.